Hey guys, so I want to bring you on an inside look at one of my coaching calls that I had with a few of my students in my program. In here, I talk about seller financing and how I make offers on deals, and also how a student had a potential wholesale that will turn into possibly a property that I end up buying. So get ready for an inside look at how I coach some of my students. All right, guys, what's going on? It is May 15th, 2023, and it is another Zoom at noon call. So today, I actually want to share with you guys real quick something that just happened at one of our properties. It's the property that we are working on as a group over in the Northeast. Let me wait for Kevin to come in here real quick. So yeah, it was a very interesting thing that happened at the property that we bought as a group in the Northeast. So I don't know what my contractors were doing, but they turned off the water to the house. And I'm guessing that they had to work on some kind of plumbing in the back or whatever. And maybe the valve at the meter that shuts off the water to the rest of the house. Sometimes that valve goes bad. And if that valve goes bad, how do you shut off the house? Well, you got to go outside. But let's say you're not a plumber and you don't have the curb key to turn it off. It's a long pipe with a thing at the end that looks like this, and it grabs on to the valve and it turns it like that. If you don't have that tool, then you can't turn off the valve at the sidewalk. And if the valve inside the house doesn't work, then you're screwed, right? So in order to change the valve at the house, you got to turn off the one in the sidewalk. So my guys are out there, they're turning off the valve. And sometimes houses in Philadelphia, the valves for the two houses that are next to each other, the valves are close. And my guys turned off and then turned on the valve to the neighbor by accident. But again, turned it off, turned it back on. Should be no problem whatsoever, right? And then they turned off the valve at our house and did their work and turned it back on, and everything should be good. Then I get a phone call from the neighbor. Hey, I saw your guys working on the house, or I'm sorry, the valve outside of the house. And then I woke up this morning to a couple of inches water in my basement. And I said, oh my God, of course. Why? Why does this need to happen? Right? Because then it's like, okay, how is the water coming in? Is the water continuing to come in? Did I do that? And then if I did do that, is that going to be an insurance issue? Is that just going to be cash out of my pocket issue? Like, how are we going to pay for that? So all of these things, right? All of these things are running through my head. So I say, do you want me to have my guys come over and take a look? And he goes, well, what are you guys going to do? I was like, well, we're going to check. We're going to check to see where the water's coming from. And he said, oh, I looked a little bit. I couldn't find it. I was like, all right, well, what would you like me to do? He's like, well, I called the insurance company. Okay. He said, somebody's coming out. All right, great. So the insurance company comes out, and then I don't hear back from him at all. I don't hear back from him. And a few hours have passed by. And then I get a picture. Sent from my contractor. It's a picture of a water heater. And I was like, ha. So I call the guy back. Hey, I haven't heard from you in a while. What's going on? And he goes, yeah, it turns out to be a water heater. And I was like, oh, well, that's good. Because then it's not our fault. But I'm like, dude, I know that my guys were at your valve and they turned it off and turned it back on. But the fact that your house leaked, they have nothing to do with each other. It's as if, right? It's as if I turned off the valve to the house, right, from the inside. Turned it off and then turned it back on, and now the whole house leaks. Or you're taking a shower, you turn the water off, you turn the water on, and now your whole house leaks. Like, it just doesn't have the valve. It can be turned on and off all you want, a million times. So that's what happened on my end, and on his end, it just coincidence that the water tank leaked that very same day. And the fact that he saw my guys working on the curb trap or whatever, the valve, the curb valve, the same time. Like, all of these things, and I was just like, I'm losing my mind here, because again, I was like, okay, is it my fault or is it not my fault? And if it is my fault, then how do we pay for it? Is it an insurance thing? Is he going to sue me? Is it and I'm like, oh my God. All right. But then turns out nothing at all. Right. Nothing at all. Another friend of mine had a similar situation where the neighbor was like, oh, you guys messed up my house and this and that, whatever. And now my basement's leaking and all. So there's like, I didn't know this, but there was like a dye that you put in the water, like as a strategy, you put in the dye and then you can see where the water is coming from. Is it coming from the other house into this house, or is it from this house going into the other house? And so the neighbor called about their house being ruined. And then a plumber came out, did the dye trick. Turns out the neighbor's house was ruining her own house. So again, with the scenario, it's just, they want to blame you with the quickness. And my contractor was like, hey, you got to be careful. He might have had a pre-existing condition of some kind of leak. And now he's just like, oh, perfect. They're working next door on this and that. And this is my perfect time to strike and say it was your fault. So you have to be very aware of the possibilities of all of these kind of things. But yeah, that's that, right? That's that. Another cool little story. So I recently went to go see a property that I wanted to put an offer in and buy. And the way I got that lead is because I am friends with a lot of different people in a bunch of different industries. This person was in the demo clean out business, and they said that they come across properties, they get business from people who are trying to clean out a building because they're inheriting the building and they just want to sell the building and they just want to clean all this stuff out and all that, right? So the guy who does the demo clean outs, he's not in the business of buying buildings, but I told him I would pay him a big fee if he were to find me a property. So he will send me deals all the time from these cleanouts where the person wants to sell the building. So then I go there and I'm talking to the person who owns the property. And this is a fantastic way to get direct to seller leads, right? Having these relationships with people who talk to the sellers and then you getting the seller's phone number directly. So I'm talking to the guy and I'm like, hey, tell me more about the house. What's going on? And he was like, well, I'm getting it cleaned out, but also not only am I getting it cleaned out, but I have to deal with this insurance thing. There was a roof leak and this happened and that happened and all that kind of stuff. And the property is where his dad owned it, but then his dad passed away. And so now he's inheriting it and he has to deal with all the situation, all the issues in the situation. So why he wants to work with me, we don't have a deal yet. Our numbers are very different. Like he's here and I'm here in terms of numbers, right? But the reason he's even considering helping me is because I helped him a whole bunch up front. I said, oh, you had an insurance situation, or I'm sorry, you had a leak, which could possibly be an insurance situation. I kept telling him that the insurance company's job is to deny your claim. So I was like, when did this happen? When did your dad die? Who was home? What kind of insurance policy do you have in place? All of these things, because I said, well, if your dad passed away and the house was vacant, then no longer is it an owner occupied property, because the owner is no longer occupying the property. So it should be a vacant property insurance policy. I said, did you switch it? He said, wait, what? So that's number one. Number two, I was like, when did your dad die? When did the leak happen? He's like, my dad died on like the 16th and the leak happened on the 23rd or something like that. I said, okay, so your dad passed away. I was like, because one thing you could say is that like, yeah, your dad lived here and it happened on his watch, but it didn't, right? So then you could tell the insurance company he was away, right? And then they go, okay, well, we need to talk to him. Where is he? Oh, well, we have a power of attorney that can talk to you, right? Because obviously the dad can't talk to him. So I'm like, okay, well, you got a power of attorney. And so maybe the power of attorney says like, hey, this happened while my dad was away and we just wanted to take care of it, just try to work with you, whatever. And then other things are like, hey, this has a popcorn ceiling. Popcorn ceilings sometimes have asbestos in it. And in order to get that done correctly, then you may have to get a special crew in there that can handle asbestos, right? And so I'm sharing with him all of these different things and actually role playing with him on how to speak to the insurance company. And he's like, wow, this is really great and all that kind of stuff. Then he hits me with the number. He goes, I want 280. And I'm like, the last property I bought was 140. This is 50%. I'm literally pitching him 50% of his offer price. And you guys might think I'm nuts, but he didn't go, no. I said, look, I can give you 140 as a cash price. I can give you a little bit more if we do some kind of seller financing. And he was like, oh, all right, interesting. And those are the kind of things that you want to be able to do on the fly to meet somebody where they are and also give them all of the reasons why they want to work with you. The other reasons that I said that he should work with me, I'm buying it as is. I can close whenever he wants. I will allow him to keep the insurance check, right? Here's a big one. The insurance company is not going to fix the house for you. They're just going to pay for it if they approve your claim. So they're going to approve it. If they approve it, then they cut you a check. I said, look, you can keep the check. I'll buy the house as is. My offer plus your check gets you close to the number. My offer plus seller finance, meaning you're getting interest, plus your check gets you close to your number. And you're selling as is, and you're not paying a commission to an agent because it's a direct sale. So all of these things, again, it's not a no. Where is it going to go? I have no idea. Am I going to buy it at the end of the day? I hope so. At my number, I hope so. But we'll see. We'll see, right? So these are all the things that I'm saying to the seller. I'm also reminding him, it's kind of like a used car and trading it in. Why do people trade cars in? Because it's a hassle-free process. And he liked that, right? So these are the things that I'm pitching pitching him on. I'm like, how did you get your 280 number? He's like, oh, well, comps in the areas are like 300, 325 or 350 or whatever. And with the work that's needed and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, well, this needs a lot more work than you think. It's going to cost this much. And so I walk him through it. And I just, again, show him just why it would be so much better and easier to work with me, even if he's not getting his exact number, and including the check that he's going to get and all that kind of stuff. So he's waiting on some responses from the insurance company. And then he also has to talk to his sister, who is taking the death of the dad pretty hard. So talking about a house is the last thing that they probably want to do. So I'm very patient with that and understanding. I'm trying to structure a deal sooner than later, but we'll see what happens. That is how I pitched that seller. And then that is also what happened at our Lackland property, which is the group project that we're doing in terms of, you know, the leak and all that kind of stuff. Turns out it was his water heater, not my fault. The gavel has hit and they side with the defendant. All right, I want to open it up for you guys. So what's going on? Anybody have any questions, comments, concerns, anything that you're working on right now that you want to talk about? Anybody at all? I'll open it up. I'll pause it for a sec. Anybody got anything cooking? Got a bunch of people on here. Anybody?
I have a deal.
All right, what you got? What you got, Erica?
I have a multi-unit in Alany area.
Okay.
I guess I'm kind of having a little bit of trouble evaluating.
Can't find comps?
Yeah, like can't find like apples to apples comp, apples to bananas.
Apples to bananas. Okay, so there's a couple of things that you can do. So when you say it's apples to bananas, why is it apples to bananas? What is it that the banana is lacking that the apple doesn't have?
Okay, so it's kind of a zoning thing. So some of the properties that I did find, all right, so one on the block actually sold for $190, same size. However, there's like previous zoning docs for like 5 one-bedroom units. However, I don't know how you'd be able to get 5 one-bedrooms in there. It's only 2,000 square feet. And then this property, it was approved for a duplex, but they're both zoned RSA 5. Yeah, it's like similar condition, but like I didn't know if I could use that because that's like the only one that's like that. So I'm like, okay, maybe this is specific to this buyer. Maybe they had like specific plans that they were going to do. We did reach out to the agent and they were saying like they were going to use it. They were going to try and get that 5 unit. So I'm assuming that's why the number was at 190. However, when I like went out a little bit further, like I seen like 110 for smaller properties, but then like single families are selling like for 300,000 and like they're not even fixed up. So it's just weird. I'm like, when did this area get weird like this?
So here's the beauty of this. Okay, here's the beauty of it, and here's the frustrating part of it. The frustrating part is what you're already dealing with. You have no idea. You're just like, yeah. What is it? I have no idea, right? And you're just like, is it 190? Is it 300? Is it 480? No idea. Here's the beauty of it. Your appraiser has no idea either.
Right.
So what that means is they're either going to hit you at 110 or 480 or something in between. And if you feel strongly about it, you can go for it, right? This is a little bit of the risk, but you can go for it. And if the appraiser ultimately comes back at a low number once you refinance it, you can go to another appraiser or go to another lender, right? Now, that's going to cost you some money. So if the one says like 130, then you go to the next one. The next one might say 280, right? And it's just because there's nothing else there. The other thing is you can justify your valuation in multiple different ways, right? One way is, and I was telling this to Kalia, is that you can find a property in similar condition, similar size, similar to this, similar to that, in a similar neighborhood, right? And how can a neighborhood be similar? I don't know, but just kind of pick out different features of it and find it in somewhere else. So I have a property in West Philly that's a triplex. And based on the size, based on the location, based on this, that, the other, the appraiser couldn't find anything. So then when I looked at the appraisal report, he's using things that are like 0.7 away, 1.3 away, whatever. And I was like, why did you do that? And he said, it's because it's a similar neighborhood. Oh, well.
Okay.
I didn't know you could do that. Right? Yeah. So he picked it, he justified it, and that's how he did it. You could also do something similar, show how similar properties in similar areas go for this price, right? And if you give the appraiser an argument, like you meet the appraiser there and you hand him the report that shows all these different things, they may go with it because you already know what the appraiser is going to be looking at. You're just making their job easier because they're going to have to come up with something. They were paid to come up with something. That's the not gambler's way, but that's like a way. The other way to do it is if you know that you're going to be using lender XYZ. You can talk to lender XYZ and you can ask if the lender XYZ will do an appraisal beforehand. And then the appraiser will go out and do their work. And you're going to have to pay whatever it's going to cost, $700 for multifamily, $800, $900, whatever it is. You pay that up front. At least now you're like, okay, if I pay for this report, will you guys use the report if I'm finished the project in a couple of months? And they could say yes, they could. They can also go back to and say, we will use it if the appraiser signs off that it's good. As in like he goes, okay, I did this in May. Now it's September, but I sign off that it's still accurate. So that's another thing. But so there's more certainty around there. Now the risk is you pay the money for the report and then you end up not using the report. Right. So that's the risk, but that's the cost of doing business, as they say.
Yeah, we were going to use it. We were going to probably wholesale it, so it was even harder to like try to come up with like the number. But well, I get what you're saying though.
Yeah, well, I guess you can try to wholesale it, and then if you market it and somebody else is willing to take the risk, then great. That's the beauty. You don't have to worry about it. You can and then you can show the same things that I was saying to you. Find a duplex, triplex, whatever your property is in a similar neighborhood, and be like, here, this is why I think this is the value.
All right.
They expect wholesalers to be wrong with the values anyway. Let the buyer deal with that. Kevin, you want to buy a property, multifamily, hard to comp, could have a high ARV? What's it, North Philly, Erica, you said?
No, it's like Fern Rock area.
Fern Rock, got it. What and how many units is it?
So it's set up like 3 units, but it's legally zoned for 2.
Got it. Did you say it's an RSA 5 or is it an RM1?
It's RSA 5, but it has zoning docs for
Okay, so it got a variance. So we got a variance for 2 units. Okay, well, here's what's great. How much you want to sell it for?
I was thinking somewhere around 140.
Maybe it's a project for the group again. So it's a maybe project.
Yeah, I think it'll be a good a good project for someone who wants to fix it up and sell it as, what is that, like a homeowner hack? Like somebody
house hack.
Yeah, house hack.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. We can chat about it. So let me take a look at it. Do you guys have it under contract already?
No, but the guy wants to work with us though, because like our original offer was too low for him, but he likes us. He wants to work with us.
Okay, very cool. Okay, well, there's opportunities here, so we can definitely work together on this. If numbers pan out, let me take a look at the numbers and all that kind of stuff, and hey, maybe you wholesale it and maybe it becomes a group project. All right, cool.
Address.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, cool. Well, there you go, guys. Oh, and how do you do your deals? I don't know. I just try to help somebody else do a deal, and then it turns out that they wanted to sell the deal, and then I said, hey, look, I'll buy it, and then ta-da, another deal done. And it works for both sides, because maybe doing a rehab is the last thing that Erica wants to handle. She's like, no, I'm not handling it. I see what you go through, Hoan. What if I turned off the valve at the front curb and then their basement leaked in the next door? I don't want to deal with that, right? Hey, I don't want to deal with that either. So, but I do, right? But Erica's like, no, Hoan, I'll just go find another property to wholesale you. I'd much rather deal with sellers than deal with contractors and deal with all this headache that potentially happens with properties. Speaking of headaches that happen with properties, I just got hit with like, oh, Hoan, this property needs a new roof. Hoan, this property needs a new heater. Hoan, this property needs a bathroom. Hoan, this property needs new floors because this one's currently sinking, and this other property needs a new drain pipe. And that all happened within the week or the last 2 weeks. The heater, the bathroom, and the flooring just happened in the last 2 days. So this is like, oh yeah, I wanted to spend thousands of dollars this week. Sure. There's a downside of holding on to properties, but it happens. Now, this was kind of in the cards. What I mean by that is I tried to milk every little bit of the property or the components within the property. So when I bought the property, I could see that the heater was old, but the heater still worked. I was like, you know what? Let me rock out. Let me just keep it going. And so I got a year out of the heat. The floors that are sinking, those floors have been sinking for the last 8 years. I'm just getting around to it now. It's one of those things, like you got to get to it. So this was early on in my career. I would have fixed this right the first time, but I bought the house turnkey like that. So I never got to rehab the house in the first place. Now this is like an after the fact rehab. So those floors, I knew it was just a matter of time. And then that bathroom was existing. And that bathroom, the tenant says, has been nothing but trouble ever since she moved in. And that's why it's kind of like a rule for me now. Always address the bathrooms. Even if somebody was living in there, address bathrooms because they will fail on you, most likely, if it's an older house. And that's what I'm dealing with now. So these are all the kind of things that I knew was going to happen. I just didn't think they would all happen the same week. Now, why it's happening all in the same week? Because I got a bunch of properties, and it's bound to happen where things break at the same time. It's all good. Everything will be fine. And that's the theme of my life. Everything will be fine, no matter what happens. And that's what I tell myself. Even if it's not fine, everything will be fine because soon enough, this will all be over, like 100 years from now. What's up, Kev?
What's going on? When you said that you always check the bathrooms, especially when a tenant leaves, what does that look like?
So, not that I always check the bathrooms. I always fix the bathrooms, as in like I'll cut the ceilings open and replace the supply lines, the drain pipes, make sure that any cast iron is out of there, and put PEX and PVC and all that stuff in there. So it's all brand new underneath, because that stuff, the cast iron and the copper fittings and all that kind of stuff, it leaks because they're 100 years old, and then it destroys your ceiling, and then the tenant has a clog, and it's just bad news bears.
Got it. So you just replace them with PVC and the Plex.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. And that way, dude, you save yourself a huge headache because it's going to leak at the most inappropriate time. It's going to leak on Thanksgiving when you're out like in the Bahamas with your family on a once in a lifetime trip where, you know, whatever. And the property manager, they're like maybe not getting back in time or like responding fast enough. And you know, it's just the worst. So it'll save you the headache. Also, you don't have to replace drywall, and then you don't have like the mismatched paint. You ever go to a house and it's like, oh, why is there a square white patch right there? Oh, I know why. Every house is like that. So just saves you the headache. Might be a couple bucks, you know, but that couple bucks today is worth every penny for the future. All right. Tom says, I was in Hawaii the past October and a hot water heater went at my rental property. Had to talk to my contractor while on the beach. Like, what? And Hawaii is like 6 hours time zone difference. And so it's like Tom's talking to the contractor at 3 a.m. while it's 9 a.m. here in Philly, you know? So stuff happens. Get it done. I had water heater fail too, but it wasn't at inappropriate time. It was just at regular time. But sure enough, I bought the house. Tenants already lived there. 2 hot water heaters. This is the same house actually that has the heater that I need to replace now. Has 2 old water tanks, 2 old heaters. And I was like, damn, those things look old as heck. And I know I'm gonna have to replace them one day. Sure enough, about 6 months after I bought the property, the one water tank leaked. So at that point, I had both the water tanks leak. Or I'm sorry, replaced. But I got 6 more months out of them. And I could have maybe gotten a year and 6 months. Who knows? But it's just how I handle my cash flow. So stuff like that, I mean, it sucks. And it's I don't know, like a weighing game. It's like, do I do it now? Or do I do it a year from now? You know, it's like, well, if I get another year out of it, great. But then at the same time, that means I'm going to have to deal with it again later. So you pick and choose what you want to deal with. Do you want to deal with it now and save yourself later? Or do you want to pinch every penny and do it later? That's ultimately a personal choice for you guys. How would you rather handle your business? Handle it now, handle it later. At some point, you're going to have to pay the piper. And that's the downside of owning real estate property. The way you can do it where you don't have to worry about it is you could do something like a lease option or seller finance, right? Maybe you buy properties. And so I was at the spa with a buddy of mine, Dan Zatoski. And for those who are in the RPM Academy, I'll try to have him come speak one day. He was telling me how he'll do seller financing to an investor. So let's say I am seller financing a property to Kevin. So that means that Kevin is making the mortgage payments to me and he owns the property. So I don't have to do anything for the property. It's his property. So he has to handle all of the water tanks and all that kind of stuff. I'm getting passive income. And what's cool is between me and Kevin, there's something called a note. The note is where it says Kevin owes Hoan $150,000 and he owes it to me in $800 a month increments for the next 30 years. Well, that piece of paper that says that Kevin owes me $150,000 and that house is collateralized by the piece of paper and all that kind of stuff, it has value. So I can sell or finance the house to Kevin, but if I need my money back and $800 a month isn't cutting it, I can take that note and I can borrow against it. I can sell the note. I can sell partials. I can do all kinds of stuff. And that's pretty cool. That's another kind of topic that I'll go more into in a future date, but I just want you guys to get the idea. So Kevin owes me $800 a month, right? So I'm collecting $800 a month. Well, then I meet someone like Tom. Let's say Tom has a whole bunch of money and he's just like, Hoan, I want to return all my money. I go, great. What kind of return do you want? He's like, oh, I don't know. I want like a 10% return. I go, cool. Well, here's what's going to happen. I can sell you a 10% return. How do I do that? Well, I currently collect $800 a month from Kevin. So if you gave me $20,000, let's say, let me do some math, right? So if you gave me $20,000 and you wanted a 10% return, that's $2,000, right? So that's $22,000. Well, if I divide that by $800, that means 27 and a half payments are going to go to Tom. Tom gives me $20,000 up front. And then for the next 28 payments, $800 is going to go to Tom. So at the end of it, Tom is going to get $2,300 or no, I'm sorry, $22,400 or something like that, right? So he'll be getting the return he's looking for. And I did a sloppy job at my math. I just want you guys to get an idea of what I'm talking about. Tom is giving me $20,000 up front because Tom wants to invest money. I say, cool. He gives me 20 grand because I need the cash. Tom just wants a return. So instead of Kevin paying me, Kevin is now paying Tom the $800 a month. So Tom is going to be collecting 28 payments. 28 payments times 800 equals $22,400. I was right? So he's going to be collecting $22,400 and all he had to do was give me $20,000 up front. So he's getting the return he wants. I'm getting cash up front so I can go do more deals and Kevin's situation doesn't change whatsoever. But that note gives me the power and then I don't have to deal with any kind of rehab. And that's what's pretty cool. So there's different ways to slice this up. So you guys pick and choose, kind of like what I was saying about Erica. Erica's like, yo, Hoan, I got this property. I want to wholesale it. Why does Erica want to wholesale it and not do the deal? Why doesn't she want to buy it and turn it into a duplex or whatever? Because that part sucks sometimes. You know, it's not all rainbows and sunshine. Tom is dealing with busted water tanks while he's in Hawaii. And let's not get into what Kevin's dealing with. I'm just kidding, Kevin. I'm kidding. I always go there. With Kevin, but it's because it's coming from love.
I don't think it is, man.
It is. He says, I don't think it is. So what else, guys? What else are you guys working on? That's a brief glimpse into notes, right? That's a brief glimpse into notes. I do notes like that with hard money. I have a seller finance note that I'm currently holding on to. It's pretty cool. And believe it or not, you can buy notes. Right. So sometimes people have the notes. Let's say I have that note between me and Kevin, and I have this note, and the note says Kevin owes me $150. Well, I can go in the open market and I can sell it. Somebody might want to buy that note from me. And now they might buy it at a discount because they want a return, right? So they might buy it from me for $140,000. And I might be okay with it because I'd rather get my 140 today than wait 30 years to get 150. So here you go. I'll sell it, or 130 or whatever, right? So I can sell my note as well. And so if you're a note investor, you guys can buy the note. Another form of real estate investing that not a lot of people know about. I remember when I first learned about it, I was like, wait, what? You can do what? And how? And this and that? Because you can slice it up, sell partials, you can borrow against it and all that kind of stuff. It's really cool. All right, what else, guys? What else you guys working on? What else you guys have questions about?
I'll speak up.
Yeah.
How are you?
Good.
Good. So I'm taking advantage of going to Philly next weekend for your birthday. And
you can carpool with Kevin.
I'm taking such advantage. I ended up speaking to my agent just to try to get into some properties to see them. She's not going to be around. So she did talk to the listing agents and they did give me the lock spot codes so I could just go myself and check them out, which
Very
is
cool.
great. So I'll be going right before your birthday party.
Great.
And I know I emailed you regarding like that seller finance,
Sure.
whether I should be looking into that. And that's because I found a duplex and I'd have to go. I like it because both units are vacant and I can do work to some of them, or one of them, I think it is. And both are vacant. So if I do move forward with it, I can put my own market rent. But I would have to go under asking for it to work. And I know that the owner bought this property. He's held it for about, or they held it, I don't know who it is, but they've held it for about 18 years, bought it in 2005 for like $16,000. So there's no lien on it. There's no mortgage. So I did reach out to Hoan to ask him if like this would be a good seller finance. And you told me like, think any deal is a good seller finance.
Yeah. Great starting point.
Yeah. So we'll see. I'm gonna go take a look at it. I do like it from the photos. I did want to get something where I can add value to it because Burr is my strategy for now. That's what
Right.
I'm thinking in order to recycle money for the next one. And the other, I'm gonna check out another one, which both of them are in West Philly. That one unit is vacant and the other is rented out below market, I believe. I have to look at my notes. But yeah, I'm gonna go check them out and see if I can figure out what to do with.
Did you
One
talk
of-
to the agent about the wholesaler finance thing?
So I did. She's never done it before.
Yep.
And one of my concerns was me having to do it because I'm like, all right, how do I explain this? She said she's never done that before. Quickly, she goes the conventional, traditional route.
What a surprise.
Yeah. And I was like, and then I was worried. I spoke to Corey about it too, who's in the RPM.
Yeah.
But he was like, yeah, typically agents don't like it because they don't get their 3% commission or
true.
whatnot. Yeah. So I was like, so okay, so how do I do this? So that would be a good segue for you to jump in and tell me how to do this.
Yeah. So seller finance doesn't mean that it's 100% seller finance.
Okay.
And when you're dealing with agents, always know that what you want to do in order for you to get a yes is you need to protect their commissions. So you say it up front, hey, I want to do a seller finance deal, but I also want you to know that I'm going to protect your commission and make sure you get it. Okay. And then it's like, oh, okay, well, I appreciate that. How do you do that? Well, let's say that the seller finance is going to be, let's say the property is selling for $200,000. Maybe you say, okay, look, I will seller finance 180,000 and I put 20% or $20,000 down, right? So you're putting $20,000 down and you're seller financing $180,000. Well, if the person's selling the property for $200,000, that means, and the agent charged 6%, that's 12,000. So out of the 20 that this seller received, they're going to pay 12 to the agents.
Okay.
See? So
Yes.
not true. Not true that
Okay.
you can absolutely protect their commissions and you want to let them know that you will.
So that commission would come from the payment given to the seller?
Yes. So remember, okay, so let's throw away this whole idea of seller finance.
Okay.
Let's just talk about you financing a deal.
Mhm.
So when you're financing a deal, the bank, whether you're going FHA or traditional, they want a down payment, correct?
Correct.
So that means that if they want $20,000 down, you're financing 180, right? So this is no different. Seller financing, you can say, hey, I'm going to give you a down payment. And then, yes, out of what they receive, they'll pay it to the agents. And now, if the seller wants a full $20,000, then you say, hey, I'll put down $32,000 and then I'm only going to finance from you 168.
Okay, that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah.
And then they cut the same 12,000 to the agents, no matter what. That agent commission is being paid by the seller, regardless of its finance, seller finance, this, that, it doesn't matter.
Gotcha.
12,000 still being paid.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
And here's a kicker. You can even tell your agent that, look, I'm even willing to pay a buyer's agent bonus or something like that if you work this one out to give them more incentive to negotiate it. It's like, so you will get your commission at closing, and I'll even give you a bonus for stepping out of your comfort zone.
Okay.
And then once you get them done, once you get this agent that you're working with used to doing it that very first time, then they'll do it over and over and over. So yeah, just always ask yourself what's in it for them. And that question of like, what's in it for them, that goes across with dealing with agents, dealing with sellers, dealing with everybody.
Yeah.
What's in it for your agents? They want their commission. Okay. How do I incentivize it even more? What's in it for the seller? Well, you can potentially give them more money, because if they wanted to sell it for $200,000 cash and you're doing $200,000 seller finance, now they're going to get more money over time. Right. So what's in it for them? Also, you're like, okay, I understand you might need some money upfront. Okay, cool. Here's the down payment of X, whatever X may be.
All right.
Right? Because sometimes they don't need all that money. The other thing is like you can make it seem like how do I say this? Like it's more incentivized for them to actually do this with you because you go, all right, well, if I gave you $200,000 cash, what would you do with the money? And they're like, oh, well, just put it in the bank. Well, that doesn't sound like a good use of the money, right?
Mhm.
They're like, no, probably not. Okay, well, how about this better use of the money? How about you have it invested in the property and I give you a return? And all of a sudden they go, oh, okay, cool. It sounds good. So it's just all in how you explain it.
Yeah, I do like that property. I have to convince them to go under asking. So that would be another.
That's
that would
a
be-
whole different thing.
Yeah, that
But again, remember, what are they looking for? If they want $200,000 and you're like, I got to buy it for like 160.
Mhm.
Okay, great. Hey guys, I can give you your $200,000. Really? Yeah, but you're going to have to work with me. I'm going to get there over
Mhm.
time with payments, right?
Okay.
I'm going to get there over time with payments. So if you're okay with working with me, I'll structure it where you guys can get your $200,000 in a year and a half or something like that. I'll
Mhm.
pay you X number of dollars up front and I'll pay you X number of dollars every single month until you hit your $200,000. Yeah. And maybe you can't even get to the $200,000 because you got to buy it for 160 and you're like, well, look, I can't get you 200, but I can get close to it and I can get you close to it through payments. And they're like, oh, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the day, if they say no, wait and hit them with the same offer a month from now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've told you guys that before. Like just cross out the date, keep everything the same, cross out the date, but like do it obnoxiously. Cross it out in red and write in red a new date. And it's the same offer. Here you go.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Still in the market, so
Has their listing agent said anything in terms of what they want to receive? Okay.
nothing yet. No combo so far. We were trying to actually I got the call yesterday with the information regarding like the lockbox and all that. So
Okay, cool. So truthfully, you don't even know if you really want it yet until you see it.
exactly. I'll see it this weekend and then go from there.
Awesome. Okay.
Mhm.
Very cool. Well, thank you for sharing. Thank you
Yeah,
for sharing
thank
that with
you.
everybody. Guys, hopefully you guys were able to pull out a gem from that conversation I just had there with Judy in terms of seller financing. Seller financing is a pretty cool strategy. It's confusing for some sellers. So you have to like tippy toe, tread lightly in how you provide that opportunity because if a person's confused or scared, they say no. Even if it's the best thing in the world for them, they still say no. So you got to like do it with like some pizzazz. And now here's the hard part. She's not doing it. She is presenting it to her buyer's agent, who's then presenting it to her seller's agent, who's then presenting it to her actual seller. Judy's got to become a master at explaining it to her buyer's agent in such a way that the buyer's agent can then explain it to the seller's agent.
That's what I'm afraid of. But gotcha.
It's either you got this or you don't. Either way, it'll all be fine in 100 years from now. 100 years from now, everything would be all good, guys. So don't worry about it. All right, cool. Anybody else? Tom, real quick, you able to talk? How's your project looking? You're like so close to being done. Where you at now?
Yeah, just like little minor touch-up things, but I did start the refi process. I gave the guy Gary, you gave me his information. We talked Friday. He asked for basic information, and I gave him that. So that's in the process. So we're looking good.
Awesome. No, that's good, man. So when's your tenant scheduled to move in?
So the one who we had, she had actually asked us, hey, is your heating gas or electric? And it's gas. She was like, oh man, I really don't like PGW because their prices are so high.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that kind of scared her, but I'm not worried about it because I got a recommendation for a realty company who my contractor's buddy actually uses and he loves them. And that's where the lady was from anywho. So I'm just going to send them pictures this week and then just get it posted.
Yeah. One other thing that you can remind her is that though PGW gas prices could be high, typically heating with electric is more expensive.
Really? Wow, that was her excuse though. But I was like, all right.
Yeah.
And she's in an apartment and so she would have rented this for $1,500. She's paying $1,450 now for an apartment. I'm like, you would have had a whole gigantic brand new house. You know what I mean?
If you can talk to her again, I mean, it'll save you a couple bucks to just get this person, move them in quickly, right? And if she's willing to pay that, and you know, that's a unicorn. Not a unicorn, it happens, but it's a good situation. Talk to her, say, hey, look, you can talk about how friends of yours have installed what's called a heat pump. That's what it's called when it's an electric heater. So right now, I don't know if you have a furnace or boiler, but run by gas. Tell them that like typically in the East Coast, like where Philadelphia is, it gets so cold that with a heat pump, it's going to have to use like emergency heat and whatever heat, and that just uses so much electricity that it's going to end up costing more money than using gas. And that's why you chose gas, because you wanted to save her money.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, it's boiler because I got the house has radiators in it.
Yeah, so you got a boiler.
Yep.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Boilers are fine. Nothing wrong with them. They actually produce like the better heat, right? That radiant heat feels better than forced hot air.
We just care about the house, but she seemed to be spooked by that. I was like, okay, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, I mean, she could have that in her mind, but you can tell her like, look, if you actually had it electric, it would actually cost her more. So she might not be aware of that. She's just going off of a false truth. In her head, it's the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you may want to call her back. You may want to call her back and ask her if she's still considering.
Oh, for sure.
And tell her like, hey, right. Tell her like, hey, you're about to list it, and if somebody else comes, she'll lose it. So she may want to reconsider.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, well, congratulations. Another one almost done. Another one almost finished in the books. It's awesome. So I just heard of a strategy for finding properties, and you guys may want to implement it. I don't know how well it works, but people have a trigger on the MLS. So a real estate agent could send you a trigger, and they look for price per square foot. So if you know an area and the area sells for, let's say, $100 a square foot. Well, if any property pops on the market that's like $80 a square foot or $70 a square foot without any other like wording or verbiage in like the description and whatever, just from that, that you might have yourself a discount. So consider having those price per square foot as a trigger for you to get an automated email of a property. So as soon as it hits the market, you're already like, oh, this one's cheap. And it's not always accurate in the sense of like, oh, just because price per square foot, it's cheaper, because a big house may not necessarily sell for more money than what is going on in the area. So like, as an example, you might have a 1,500 square foot house in an area where everything else is 1,200 square feet, but the area doesn't necessarily justify somebody paying $200,000 for your bigger house versus paying $150 for the smaller house. They might still value your house at $150 as well. It just so happens to have more square footage, which means it's just going to cost you more money to rehab. But it is a way to get triggered for something, because if you are in a neighborhood where a bigger square footage does actually garner more value, then great. You just found a little diamond in the rough, and it doesn't matter what the agent writes in the property description. There you go. Fun little tip for you today. Check that out. All right, guys, I hope you guys really enjoyed watching me train some of the students on various topics that could pertain to you in your investing journey. If you guys would like my help with learning how to invest in real estate and being there for you guys as you deal with the issues that you deal with as they come up, feel free to apply to my new coaching program. So for all of you guys out there interested in working with me, simply go to HOANZONE.com/apply so that you guys can apply for the coaching program. And for those who want to do it yourself and have a course that you guys can follow, also go to HOANZONE.com and check out the passive income playbook that I have there available. It is a course that you can access 24/7, 365, so that you guys can learn at your own pace. And to make it super easy for all of you guys interested in all of these things, go just check out the description below and see all of the links that I have available for you. As always, thank you for watching another HOANZONE video. I'm Hoan Tai. Let's multiply.